Okay, so we're learning about making an Ohel on Shabbos. And there are a few questions that I wasn't so clear about last week. Still not so clear about all of them, but some of them I'll just touch upon before we continue. We were talking about the difference between a Ohel that one is making with the intention of protecting. Oh, I didn't send Chaim Chizkiyahu the link. Excuse me. Oh, please. Yeah, I don't know how to get it from Gmail to WhatsApp. I just do it on Gmail because it's a Google Hangout thing. Okay. Okay, so when it comes to a Ohel that you're making to actually protect, actually give you protection from the rain, from the sun, whatever it is, even just for sneeze to make yourself a little separate chamber, a little area. So there, it's a much more strict thing. It's a problem, for example, even if there is no wall. Even if you're just making a roof. Take, for example, the famous sheep, maybe they were goats, I don't remember, of Rav Huna, where he had this, rolled up mat or something on top of poles, no walls, just the mat. And in order to allow the opening of that mat to provide shade for his animals, it had to have been somewhat open before Shabbos. Otherwise, it would be forbidden, even though there are no walls. That's the rule when it comes to something that is being made for protection. When it comes to something that is not being made for protection, but rather it's being made because you want to use it. You want to make a bed. You're putting the bed together. You're not actually connecting it in any serious way because that would involve binyan. Somebody mentioned that last time. So we're not talking about a bed that you actually put in. You're just putting it down. You're putting down the mattress on top of the walls. You're not connecting it. You're not tightening it. Certainly, you're not tightening it tight, or even tightening it, or even connecting it loosely in a way that you might forget and do it tight. Whatever. No issues of binyan depending on the situation. The only issue is that even though it's not your intention, you are creating a space underneath it. Okay, so that's like an unintended Ohel. Now, an unintended Ohel, because it's unintended, has 3 leniencies that I can think of right now. Make it 4. 4 leniencies. You ready? Leniency number 1 is that it only applies if there are walls. If there are no walls, then there's no issue whatsoever. That's if you want to make a protection. If you want it to be a protection, then it's a problem even if there's no wall. And the only heter that I know of is to have a tefach already open. Here I'm talking about if you don't intend to make a protection, you intend to make something useful, a table. Let's talk about a table. You have this table. It's on the side. It's folded up. You unfold it, and you make a table to sit on. Your intention is not to protect what's underneath. So because there are no walls around this table, it's no problem. That's leniency number 1. Again, that's only because it's not your intention. Leniency number 2. Now, when we talk about walls here, we mean, according to the Magen Avraham, even two walls. If you have two walls, then it's a problem. Two walls and a top. However, even those two walls and a top are only a problem, according to the Magen Avraham, which is that Alter Rebbe Paskins, if you actually create the walls and the top. If the walls are all there from before, and all you're doing is putting the top on the walls, and again, it's not your intention to create a protected space, it's just your intention to make something useful for the top of it, not for underneath it. So that is allowed. So let's talk about the beds that they used to have in those days. They used to have beds that had walls around them. Maybe two walls, maybe four walls. We'll discuss four walls in a minute. And if the bed was already in its location, and all you had to do was cover it with a mattress or whatever it was, then it was okay. Because you're not creating the walls. In order for it to be a problem, it would have to be that you're creating the walls. Now, creating the walls doesn't mean you actually have to, set the walls up from scratch. Even if you just move it over, the Mishnah Berurah holds that that's, for this purpose, is considered creating the walls. So if you would move over the bed to a certain location and then put the top on it, that would be a problem. Yes?
Let's assume we have two dressers this size.
Two dressers this size?
Yeah.
Yep. Second, let me just show the world. Well, let me just show the world what dresser we're talking about. There we are. That's the dresser with the handles. Yeah, go ahead.
The wood one, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And putting a piece of board in between two to make it as a table.
Yeah.
Okay? Each one we consider as a wall.
So the answer to that is, if you move them over to make the distance correct, and then you put the top on, that's correct. That's a problem. Because you are creating both the walls and the top. No.
Didn't we have the same thing with the bench and the two crates?
It's not Binyan Gomer. Binyan? I mean, like Dairaisa Binyan? Why? I mean, this is totally arai. You're going to make a bench. You're going to get up. You're going to leave. It's going to be over. It's definitely not Binyan Kavua. It's not oil Kavua. It's not even an intended oil. It's not even intended oil. You're talking about where you want to make a protected space. I just want to make a table. No, you're not even. It's not even an intended oil. Understand?
Is that when you add?
Because it looks like an oil, but it's not aser. It's not a major iser even rabbanan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you're adding a third wall, and that's what makes it aser. But if you just put on top of the two dressers, then it's
no. He's not talking about a third wall. He's talking about a roof.
Oh.
Imagine this is a second dresser. Imagine this is the second dresser. In fact, it's not eligible because it doesn't have walls. But if you imagine this to be the second dresser, imagine it have walls, and you drape this across it to create some kind of space of a tabletop, that would be something that would not be allowed if you moved these dressers into place. If they were there from before, and you just covered it, that would be okay because you're not creating the walls. If you have to move them to the right distance and whatever, and then that would be a problem. Yes?
So the right distance is to be more than 3 tefachim.
That's an interesting question. When I said the right distance, I wasn't talking about 3 tefachim. I just meant the right distance for you to be able to cover it with the intended coverage. But if you want to talk about 3 tefachim, we can. because I happen to have read about it today. I happen to have read about it today.
So just one, yeah. So, okay, never mind. No, I figured it out.
Okay, but since you brought up 3 Tvachim, here it is. So the Mishnah Berurah brings that the Magen Avraham says that you shouldn't be allowed to cover your chimney. You have a chimney, right? I mean, in most of the world, people have chimneys. And you want to cover it because it's raining or whatever. You just want to cover it. So you want to take a piece of metal or whatever it is and just cover it. So the Magen Avraham says maybe it's a problem. Maybe it's a problem. Although he says maybe it's not a problem because the wall's already there, you're just covering it. Which honestly, I don't understand why it's maybe, because Magen Avraham says elsewhere that if the wall's already there, it's okay. So I don't know why, I don't know what the maybe is about. But on that, the Tosfos Shabbos says, well, you know what? If the chimney has less than 3 Tvachim in its opening, then it's okay. The opening of the chimney, talking about the actual hole of the chimney on the top, if it's less than 3 Tvachim, by 3 Tvachim, it's okay. You can cover it because it's considered closed. It's considered lavud. Because we know things that are less than 3 Tvachim are considered connected. That's the Tosfos Shabbos' Chiddush. And we have a similar concept, which we're about to learn right now in Siv Dalet in the Mechaber, that if you have a bed, or maybe we already learned this last week, I don't remember. If you have a bed that you want to put the mattress on top of, but it has straps going across where the mattress is going to be, and the straps are within 3 Tvachim of each other, so it's considered connected already. So you're just adding to something that's already has the space of a tefach at least, that's connected, so you're allowed to put it on. Did we learn that last week? We learned it.
As long as it's less than 3 Tvachim, it shouldn't be.
Exactly, so it's considered connected. So Tosfos Shabbos says the same thing with the chimney.
Each one has to be less than 3, or
Just 2 of them. Just 2 of them are less than 3 in such a way that there's at least a strip of a tefach considered connected. So then you're just adding to a oil arai. In other words, just like by a real oil, where you're actually protecting from the sun or from the rain or whatever, if it's 1 tefach open, you can open it the rest. How much more so here, where you're not even intending to create an oil, where you're just kind of making it by the way, or it looks like it or whatever. If it's already there, 1 tefach, you're just adding to it, how much more so it's okay.
Let's say the example with the
Yep.
You have to have 1 tefach.
Unrolled.
So if the end of the mat is actually less than 3 Tvachim from the end, we consider also.
You mean if there's the frame and then the roll and there's less than 3 Tvachim between the two, is that considered maybe? The frame, the roll itself that doesn't count, we said, but maybe it can act as a connector between the frame and itself. I don't know, maybe. So, but the Chazon Ish argues on that comparison of Tosfos Shabbos. Chazon Ish says that we only consider it connected if there's something in the middle that's connecting it. Like in the case of the bed, it's not the frame of the bed that's less than 3 from each other. It's the support straps that are in the middle that connect it, but not the actual frame of the bed. In other words, when you have the walls themselves being within 3 does not create a lavud, because those are walls. You need something that is acting as part of the roof. That could create a lavud. I don't know the lumdus, because lavud is kind of beyond comprehension. When do we say it? It's halachah mishmei Sinai, how, what? But that's the way he understands that. It's only if it's already creating some kind of protection, so then lavud completes the protection. But if there is no protection, if it's a wide open space, the walls themselves to each other does not create lavud. That's Chazon Ish's understanding. Okay, so so far, we've had several leniencies in the case where you're not intending to create the thing. First of all, it doesn't apply without walls. Second of all, if the walls are there from before, it's not a problem. Third of all, and this is something else we learned last week, that it's only a problem if you create it in the normal way. That is to say, first the walls and then the roof. If you create it in the abnormal fashion by first putting the roof there and then bringing in the sides, that's okay. Because again, your intention is not to create a protected space. So it only looks like a Ohel. So as soon as you do it in an unusual way, that's enough to make it okay. Now, this heter does not begin to apply in a case where you're actually making an Ohel for protection. Because you're making an Ohel for protection, you don't even need the walls. You understand? It's also without the walls. So doing it in a reverse order, what's it going to help you? Walls are not important. Just the roof itself is a problem. So the whole idea of doing it in a reverse order will obviously only apply where you're not intending to create a protection. And by the way, speaking of making tents for children, which I said is a problem last time, and I couldn't think of a solution, and I just happened to be flipping through the 39 Malachas, and he says the same thing, that children that are at the age of chinuch should not be creating those play area tents on Shabbos, because I'm not talking about a pop-up. That's another discussion. We're going to discuss it now. But blankets and chairs and the whole thing and all that. That's a problem because that, first of all, they make the top and they make the sides, and it seems that it is for protection. They want to be in their own little space and people shouldn't see them and whatever. So he doesn't have a heter for that. Yeah. Or not just a pop-up, but as long as it's contiguous, adding. So we'll see.
I have a quick question about the table example. If you put a tablecloth on it, sides go down the floor, then problem.
No problem.
Why those
Tell me why. Exercise your mind. I'll repeat the question for the benefit of those out of state. Are you all out of state? No. Shmuel is not. Where's Chaim? Hello. I invited him. I didn't receive it. Why didn't you receive it? Okay, let's have some brain exercise. You have a table. Maybe you just opened it. Maybe you had it from before. I don't know. Are you allowed to put a tablecloth on it? Why? You have a roof, tabletop, and now you have sides. I mean, you have the tablecloth is draping down.
You already had sides? But yeah.
You did this like a table like this. No, they're not sides. If they would be sides, you would have a problem anyway because whenever you're opening up a table, you're making sides.
The table's the roof. The table's the roof. So the roof
I'm asking.
So it's first before the walls.
But that's the normal way you do it. You can't put a tablecloth in it. You can't put a tablecloth.
Right. So that's the normal way of doing it.
No, doesn't say that. Doesn't say that.
Doesn't say what?
Doesn't say that you can't create roof and then size if that's the normal way. Doesn't say that.
Oh, it's always not the normal way.
Always. Because that's the way you make normal buildings. The fact that you're making this in the normal way to make this is because this is actually not a building. That's why it's the normal way. Understand? So that's not going to make it forbidden. So just to add to what David Leib is saying, is that right now you're not creating the roof. The roof is here already. Even though, and the Magen Avram, no, the Taz brings this up, even though the tablecloth is covering this table, so you'll say, well, it's also part of the roof, but it's not functioning as a roof because there's no space between the tablecloth and the table. And whatever's underneath the table is already covered by the table. The cloth is not adding any protection, any kind of covering to what the table is already acting as.
Adding the side.
Only the sides, but it's coming afterwards. So it's interesting that the Taz does say that he knows some people, he's heard that some people are strict and they don't put on tablecloths on Shabbos, and he feels it's an unnecessary chumrah. But it is interesting, by the way, that there is a minhag many people have that their tables remain covered at all times on Shabbos. Anybody ever heard this minhag? At all times. Exactly. That's what they say. It's more like Kavod Shabbos. The Rashal says that it's because of this that issue with the oil and whatever, and that's why even if you want to switch tablecloths, you should like put one on and then take the other one off and not have it for a second. Have two on, exactly. But most persons say it's a Kavod Shabbos issue. It's not a actual CS oil issue. So that's a good point. Okay.
You have to cover it. Say someone has a beautiful table and they use placemats or something. That in itself is the stylistic. So it's
what can I say?
They don't use that weekday.
I'm a traditionalist. The traditional Kavod Shabbos is the tablecloth. White. I mean, yeah, light colors, but something special.
That's a question they ask.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Really? What's the question? Is your parent?
Do they put on a white table?
I didn't know that.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it allowed to have like decorations or just plain white? White, okay. Gotta keep track of that. Maybe I should add it to my. All right. Okay, so now we're going to learn actually another chiddush, which is relevant to this discussion about an unintended oil. I think we did Dalet already last week in the Mechaber. Should I read it again just to make sure?
Yes.
All right, here goes. Mita, Shimesereges B'chavolim. A bed that is interwoven with ropes, like kind of straps, which you drape the mattress or whatever it is over those straps. If there are 3 tfachim between one rope and the next, also then you're not allowed to spread the sada. Sada is like a blanket, but that's the blanket that you're going to sleep on, not the blanket that goes over you, right? It's the straps, the blanket, and then the body, right? The person, I should say. So spreading on that sadin is going to create an oil if there are 3 tfachim between the ropes, because there is no oil that exists yet. So that is a subject of some dispute, as per the Dirshu Shulchan Aruch. He says the Tosas Shabbos allows it to put up ropes, not even just to move them, to put ropes up, dafka. Because he says, well, the ropes themselves are not forbidden because it's not like a real oil, it's just like a rope kind of oil. And once it's up, you may as well add. However, Shlomo Zalman forbids it. No, because you are creating the tefach and then you're adding to the tefach. The whole idea of adding is only because it's there from before. If you're creating it, then you're not adding to something existing, you're actually creating. So Shlomo Zalman says it's asar. Which is the simple halacha. I mean, the Tosfos Shabbos is a chiddush, so I think Shlomo Zalman is the more simple way of understanding things. And now this is an important halacha, which people may not realize. Whatever oil you're not allowed to make, you're also not allowed to destroy. So if you have this bed with these ropes that are not within 3 tefachim, taking off that sheet or that mattress, whatever it is, again, this is a case where there are walls, is a problem because you're destroying an oil. And I read here. No, this is older Rabbanan.
So what does it mean, beged hatachton then? I mean, doesn't that mean it's laying underneath the straps?
No. He means the actual thing that you sleep on, the actual sheet that you're going to sleep on, as opposed to the blanket that would be over you.
Oh, okay. You were talking about like a canopy sort of situation.
Well, he's not going into what will be over you, but he's talking about the one that's under you. That's what you're not allowed to remove. What did you just say? You just said something? Yeah. I mean, there's 2 reasons why it's a darabanan. First of all, it's not kavua. This is not something that was kavua. They would take it, put it back and forth. And second of all, this is not an intended oil. Not an intended oil. In this case.
I was thinking, I don't know why, but the kids making a tent with chairs and blankets.
Yeah. That's just not kavua. That's just not kavua. Ooh. Wow.
You'll show this morning, I guess.
Good China.
Now that it's Darabana, maybe there's more play.
It is definitely Helmet Darabana.
As long as you leave a little part, is it okay?
If you leave a little part, it's okay. Just like you can add to a little part, you can remove up to a little part. Yeah. Tefach, yeah. So, if you have already a pillow or blanket or just a garment that is spread out 1 tefach, then you can continue to add to it on Shabbos. Okay. Moving right along to hay. Kisei ha'asu prakim. A chair that is made of parts. When you want to sit on it, they open it. And the leather, which is the seat, opens up. When you want to remove it, basically a folding chair, when it's in the way and you want it out of the way, you close it for or nichbal, and the or, which is the leather that you sit on, gets folded up. Something like that. You're allowed to open it in the first place. Okay, my friends, here comes a big chiddush. We need some close attention here. I need to share with you a task, by the way. I'm just reminding myself to do that after this. So, we're talking about a case where the chair has walls. If it doesn't have walls, there's nothing to talk about. You don't need a special heter. Whenever you create a cover and you're not intending to protect, you can do it. Right? That's the rule we already set. So we're talking about a folding chair that has walls. Why? Kasha famaisa. It has walls. 2 walls. Let's talk about 2 walls and a seat. And when you don't need it, you fold it up. I don't know, the walls fold, the seat folds. I don't know what folds, but it folds up. And when you need it, you unfold it and you have a chair. So that's mutter. Because the fact is that all the components are already put together, you just need to unfold it. That's not considered making an oil because it's already there. You're just opening it up.
Assuming what you said, that the table is going to have
They're like gonna have walls, like be solid. That's the question. What's different with the table and the chair?
Actually, there is no difference.
But
If
but
you're-
it's gonna be a problem.
No. If I said that, I take it back. Because it would only be a problem if you're putting the table together that was not connected. If you have a folding table with walls and it's all connected and you're just folding it up and unfolding it, that's okay. It's only a problem if you take one piece, that's going to be one wall, another piece is going to be another wall, and then you put the top over it, that's a problem. If you do the walls first and then the tabletop. Even that, there could be a heter for, which we didn't get to yet. We'll get to it. Talmud says, I've also heard that before some people cover all tables for Shabbos. Does it mean, for example, if there's a small table like a desk in a bedroom or office, not a room of Shabbos meals are eaten, should that also be covered? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I have, in my house, I have a few tables that are like, actually, I moved those tables out of the room, but now it's just like a dresser, but whatever. But I used to have tables in the room where we eat, like little side tables where flower pots go on or whatever. I never covered them. But I've heard that some people do cover all tabletops on Shabbos. Does that mean even in other rooms or just where the meals are eaten? Not sure. Because I'm not really particular about it, I can't say that I researched it, so I don't know. Certainly it would apply in rooms, other rooms where food might be eaten, like the kitchen or breakfast room, that yes. But like in an office or a study, I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay. So now, the Machaber doesn't exactly spell out when this Chiddush applies. And this is a subject of a significant machlokes. That which we say here, that when something is already connected, and you're just spreading it apart, right? You're just opening it up. That's not a problem. Is that only by an unintended oil? Or is it even by an intended oil? That's a subject of machlokes with pretty significant halachic ramifications. Meaning to say, if it's only by an unintended oil, then it's a much more limited chiddush. But if it applies to...
The example that he gave was proper.
Yeah,
That's not.
exactly, like a chair. But if you can expand it to include a intended oil, that's a much bigger chiddush, which you can use in many more situations. Very simple example would be you have a umbrella that is attached to your picnic table outside. Like they have in hotel kind of situations. And when you don't use it, you close the umbrella and tie it up, and the wind shouldn't blow it away. And when you want it, you open it up. Everything is there. All the components are there.
What we do is that, right? Sounds like the chair. All the
Maybe it's the same. You know what? Maybe it's the same. I think it is the same.
I thought maybe you were trying to say metal. It's kavua on the ground.
I think maybe it's the same because the chair is not kavua. I think maybe it's the same. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's learn the Alter Rebbe first, and we'll see how he expresses himself very clearly, that it has to be only when you're not intending to create an oil, and then we'll learn the Chazon Ish as well. So, Alter Rebbe is Sif Yud Beis, actually. I don't think we covered Yud Beis yet, so let's do Yud Beis, even though what we just learned now is Yud Gimel. I I don't think we've covered Yud Beis yet, and I have to remember to share that task with you, which I forgot. But first, let's do Yud Beis. If you want to arrange barrels one on top of the other, one on top of two, like a pyramid type of situation. You must hold the top one top, and then arrange the other ones beneath it. You should not arrange the bottom ones first and put the top ones under them. Because the space that is between the barrels is similar to an oil. It has two walls and a roof. That's why you have to do it in a shinui way, from above to below. Meaning to say, first the top barrel, hold that in place, and then put the sides up as well. Okay, here's the chiddush which we actually did not get to yet in the Machaber, but here's the chiddush. The Machaber is going to say it in the very next, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Machaber is going to say it in the very next if. Here's the thing. You have Sfarim. You have two piles of Sfarim. See my Sfarim here. Here they are. You have two piles of Sfarim. And now you want to place a third sefer on top of the both of them. And you have a space that is, let's say, 1 tefach high, and let's say it's 1 tefach wide. You have an oil, mamash an oil. You can have a little tea party underneath there if you're very short. So what's going on? How are you doing that? So the Alter Rebbe says, no, it's okay. Why? And here's a chiddush. Even though a tefach is being created in that space, because you don't need that space underneath at all, you're not using it for any function at all. So it's not like an oil, because by an oil you use that space. Okay, this is another chiddush which we never spelled out until now. Here it is coming. All that we've been learning about an unintended oil, even with walls, is only a problem if you're planning to use the space underneath it. What do you use the space under your bed for? Storage, exactly. So now, of course, we don't keep food under the bed because it's a ruach hatumah. There's a bad spirit under the bed. Okay, but other things we keep there. It says in the Gemara that in the under the bed of a Talmud Chacham, he only keeps his shoes, sandals in the summer, shoes in the winter, whatever it is, shoes. That's it. But Lamaisa, it's understood that it's only an example of non-food items. Like an Amoritz, maybe he's not careful, he might store other things that are edible under there. But a Talmud Chacham would only put non-edibles underneath there. But the point is that it's a storage space. So you need that space. However, when you make a little space underneath a sefer, you have no use for that space. It happens to be there, but you're not keeping anything under there, you're not putting anything under there. It has no use whatsoever. So therefore, it's okay. Now the Taz says, by the way, that you should look up your Yeridea, which I must admit I didn't do yet. But the Taz says you should look up your Yeridea, and you'll see that I explain there, says the Taz, that you cannot actually bring Sfarim from wherever you're bringing them in order to lift up the sefer, because that's not respectful to use Sfarim.
Right.
They have to be there for other reasons.
But that's not an oil.
If you're there, no, nothing with oil.
Yeah.
Nothing with oil. Just talking about Kedusha Sfarim.
Yeah.
If they're here anyway because you're learning with them, like a shot, put something on top of
So
them.
if I hold the books on the table, I can eat. grab books that are further.
But shouldn't you
No.
grab books that have less
No, my understanding
kedusha?
of the Taz is
Only books with less
it has to
kedusha
be
should
there already.
underneath, right?
you can't move it to be able to use it.
Has to literally be where I want it.
Exactly. I don't know. Love what sent to me. I don't know.
But isn't that you can't use
I
you
didn't
can't
look
use
at
a
the Taz, I must
chumash?
say. But that's my understanding. If not good with the Chumash. Any sefer, any holy item, you cannot use for your personal use. So even if you're using it for learning, to lift up the sefer to be closer to your eyes, that's called personal use. Now, if it's already there, so you're not moving it to be there, so it's not overtly showing that you're using it.
Even hands. Well, after the Rav sees it, like we can discuss what that. I'm saying even hands reach. Can't get this, but let's say many times there's classic situations that you want to do this,
Yeah,
and let's say I'm learning with other people, they don't understand it, so they grab
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I will say this, and not everybody agrees with the Taz. Not everybody agrees with the Taz.
You're allowed to use it.
They say yes, it's all for learning purposes, so it's not disrespectful. So, but if you want to be strict according to the Taz, I'm not sure
Who
what
says it's okay?
I remember, but I did read it once. What do you say?
No, I was just saying, does it matter what the sefer is? Because I had heard
Yeah,
there's a certain order of
Yes.
how
In
they
addition
stack.
to all of that,
right.
besides the question of
Like it's a
using
siddur,
it,
like it's a
just the
siddur,
general
like a
idea
chumash,
of the proper order is
Right.
that a chumash goes on top of everything.
and then
Uh,
Mishnah.
Tanakh, in terms of Tanakh, would go on top of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Within Torah Sheba'al Peh, I don't think there's an order.
How about a siddur? That would be at the bottom.
I mean, a siddur has a lot of tehillim,
Right.
so it's maybe goes above other Torah Sheba'al Peh. But I don't think there's an order of Mishnah, Gemara, because Torah Sheba'al Peh, by its very nature, was never supposed to be written down. And it's only an Eis Lasses Lashem Efer Tesecha. We wrote it down, so we shouldn't forget it. So
So it's just
because of that,
Tanakh
I don't. Yeah, it's
that
just
we-
Tanakh above Torah Sheba'al Peh, and within Tanakh there's an order. But
The classic ones are Tehillim and then Siddur.
Yeah, that's what I.
Like, shouldn't put a more on Tehillim or more on Siddur, because obviously Tehillim.
right,
I saw that a person should be strict not to put a Siddur on Tehillim or the opposite.
or the opposite. Why? Siddur has psukim too from the Torah. Is that why?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay.
What about a sefer like Hamlet as like a medrash?
A Musar or a
So
Musar?
let's take medrash. Medrash gives, apostle.
Well, Torah psukim are in there.
Well, based on what you said, if the siddur shouldn't be should be considered like Torah Shebachsa, you would think the same thing. You would think. I don't know. Not 100% sure. Okay, so this is a very big chiddush, and this is the moment that I will share the Taz with you. The Taz has another chiddush, because the Taz says that in some places it talks about 4 walls, and in some places talks about 2 walls, and he wants to resolve it all and set it straight. And this is how he resolves it. Taz says, if it's 2 walls, you have to have a plan to use the space underneath it. Otherwise, it's okay. If you're not actually planning to use the space underneath it, it's okay. If it has 2 walls. In order for it to be forbidden, it's only forbidden if you actually plan on using the space. If you don't plan on using it, it's okay. Now, if it's 4 walls, even if you don't plan on using the space, it's forbidden, says the Taz. Because 4 walls with a roof, that's essentially a protected space. That's a perfect space to keep things. So therefore, even if you have no intention whatsoever to use a space, we consider that a essentially usable space. And it's forbidden. This is a big chiddush. According to the Taz, for example, you have, they bring it here in this 39 Malachas book. You have milk crates, and you want to, I don't know if I can show it both to the computer students and everybody here at the same time. Can you see it? You have milk crates, right? And you want to put the edge of a board on a milk crate to create a bench to sit on. So according to the Taz, you can't do that in the normal way. Even if you don't plan on using the space in that milk crate, what are you going to do with the milk crate? I mean, you're just sitting on it. You're not putting anything in there. But it has 4 walls.
Why 4?
I'm talking about a milk crate, a milk crate.
Where's the 4?
The milk crate has 4 walls.
And
then you're
covering the milk crate.
Covering the milk crate.
Not the between the milk crate space.
No. I'm talking about covering the milk crate itself.
Yeah, but if you put in like the opening and spacing the floor, or to be not covering anything.
That's a good idea, actually. I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. If you turn it over, then you're actually not covering anything. Yeah, good idea. But if you don't have it turned over, then according to the Taz, it's a problem. Because you're creating a space of 4 walls and a roof, even if you have no intention to use it. So that's a chiddush, and you can apply it to other cases as well. The Magen Avraham does not hold of it, and I saw also the Chazon Ish says that it doesn't say this in the Rishonim, and he's happy to not accept the chiddush of the Taz. But the Mishnah Berurah does bring it, and he holds that l'chatchila you should go by the Taz and not create a 4 wall and roof space, even if you have no intention of using the inside.
Does the Taz hold that you can't upend a box or a milk crate in general because of this?
I would think. No, actually, no. They're not. They're not, because there it's all there, and you're just turning it. It's like opening a folded up chair. Like we said, even if the chair has walls on the top, it's okay, because you're not actually creating it. You're just opening it up. So how much more so if you're just turning it over? He's talking about where you're taking a roof and you're putting it, the 2 separate things that are not together, and you're putting it together. That's what I'm saying?
Yep, thank you.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't technically have to be down either. Sides out.
What do you mean? Yeah, exactly. The point is that you're not creating the roof on top. Yeah, that's correct.
Just for the 10th. Someone on the WhatsApp group suggested.
Oh, Shmuel. Yeah. Rabbeinu Shmuel, we have 9. How many didn't daven? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Daven?
Did not.
Shmuel, you davened? Rabbeinu Shmuel, you davened? You didn't. One second, one more time. You did not. Not 1. You did. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. Okay, that's what we thought we had. I did also. I did. I must admit, I had to be in shul anyway, so I davened. Shmuel, you davened yet? You there? He stepped away from the computer. You said no. Okay, good. So if you can come for Meyer, that would be great.
Ask him if he's coming.
Yeah, let us know, please. Otherwise, we'll have to send out search parties for other people. Okay. So, where was I? Alter Rebbe. Here we go. Masha'inkin b'chavis. צורך הוא להעביר שבלם שלי סעב שוחב יש, שבשביל ככה מסדר מכן. לכן במיתה אף מיין בוי, אף מיין לאלה שתי מחית זו כנגד זו, יש לצורך בעבר שתחתה, שמשתם משם בנסינס סנדל ומחיר יוצא בהם. Excellent. ואין צורך להם יש לא 4 מחיצות כדוי פני הטבע, שיכול להצניע שם חפץ וכמוי בטבע. Okay, let me read the English. It is, however, permitted to place 1 book down on a table, another at its side, and a third on top of them, unlike the English here, even though an empty space of the handbreadth is left between them. This is permitted because the person has no need at all for the space between them unless the arrangement does not resemble a shelter, in which instance the empty space is used. In contrast, with regards to an arrangement of barrels, which we just discussed, one needs empty space so that the barrels do not become mildewed. Now, notice, the empty space for the barrel not to become mildewed is not a space that you use. You don't use that, but you need it. You understand? It's a necessary space. It's your intention is for it to be there. You want it to be there. So that's the thing. We're not talking about a space that you're using as a protected space, because we're not talking about an intended oil. This is all an unintended oil. But nevertheless, you need that space for any side reason. That's enough to make it a problem. This is why one arranges them in this manner. Similarly with regard to a bed, even if it has only two sideboards, one up to the other, the person makes use of the space underneath it because he places sandals and the like there. Needless to say, this applies to an even greater degree when the bed frame has four walls like the size of a chest, because he can then place his possessions there like he does in a chest. People ask me about like a bunk bed. If you're not allowed to like put food under a bed, how can you actually sleep under a bed? How does it work? But nevertheless, what it says, it says. It says food, it doesn't say human beings. So what can we do? Okay. I don't know. When it comes to these ruach things, I don't know.
I saw that Rav said. In the same book, Ve'eno actually says.
Which one?
I don't know if I showed it to you. But no, Ve'eno actually. This is just like you're not allowed to put on two garments. That's it. Or take off.
Put on.
Put on two garments. You're not allowed to take off two garments.
Uh-huh.
So it's not, I guess, a Muslim thing that it's whatever.
Right. No, I heard that some say that. I heard that.
Isn't there more of students that went under the bed?
Yeah, that was in Brachot.
Find out, like,
Oh,
how
that was
the
one
bed
case.
is attachment.
Yeah, but he was
Rav Kahana.
sleeping.
Rav Kahana and Rav.
And Rav, yeah,
Can you put food under there if you don't go to sleep?
that was Brachot.
That's a question, actually.
Samech Beit.
That's the question. That's not clear. That's
Why? I
not
thought the
clear.
whole issue is that the sleeping is the ruach.
The sleeping creates a ruach hatumah, but it could be that it creates it even when you're not sleeping. That's not clear.
It's that once it's been slept on once.
Yeah, before it's been slept on, it's no issue. After it's been slept on, there are opinions that say that it's a problem, even if you didn't sleep there while the food was there. Okay. Now we're going to go do Yud Gimel, which relates to what we said before about the foldable chair. Kol Gag, Arai, Shein Muskam Melasias Oil. Here is the very important line that the Alter Rebbe prefaces this entire discussion with. In all instances, when a temporary roof was erected, underline the next line, without the intent of making a shelter. Okay? So we're only talking about without the intent. So, they only forbade it if the roof was not already attached to the mechitzas from before. But if it was already attached from before, but they were folded. How does he translate it? Folded over and stored away. You're allowed to extend it and stand it upright on Shabbos. For example, a chair that is made of parts, folding chair. When you want to sit on it, the leather seat opens and is extended. And when one wants to put it away, he closes it and the leather seat folds up of its own accord. Okay, you're allowed to open it on Shabbos in the first place. It has walls, because it's not similar to make an oil. He's not making anything. They're already there. The roof with the walls from before. All you're doing is you're opening them up on Shabbos to sit on them. Okay. Here comes a very kind of difficult piece, which is actually in the Magen Avraham, but the Alter Rebbe quotes it. It's a little bit difficult to understand. For that reason, you're allowed to put up the chuppah and take it away. Maybe they did it to honor, let's say, people getting an aliyah, like they do, like calling Arim. Some shuls they put a talis over the kids when they get a aliyah on some type. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Not an actual chuppah for the purpose of marriage. You can't get married on Shabbos. That's correct. It's forbidden. But something like that. Now, why is this difficult? Because it's just difficult to comprehend. A chuppah with walls. Do they have such a thing? Otherwise, what's the question? Without walls, it's not an issue, unless you say that we're talking about the fact that you want the chuppah to make some kind of protection underneath it. But if that's the case, Al Rebbe already said we're only talking about when you don't intend to make a protection. So if it's without protection, if it's not for the purpose of protection, so it's only a problem with walls. So that's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's talking about some kind of chuppah with walls. But because it was all attached to each other, they had these like poles with walls attached to them. I assume it's only two walls, because otherwise how is anybody going to see what's going on and get in and out, whatever. And the thing, because it's all set up from before, and you just have to kind of pull it out, it's okay. And based on this, we have a new understanding, by the way, that a covering for honor, like a symbolic covering, is not considered an ohel. That's another thing. Exactly. In other words, it's not for protection. The chuppah is creating a special space. In the case of an actual wedding, so it's creating like a space for a kinyan. It's creating like a room almost. Okay, but that's a halachic thing. It's not an actual protection. And how much more so if it's to give somebody the honor, he's getting an aliyah, you want to cover him or show him he's special. Okay, but it's not an actual protection. It's just a symbolic protection. So that's not considered protection. That's another chiddush that we can learn from here. And the same thing applies to erect a folding shelf that is affixed to the wall in which holy texts are placed, even though it has no walls. It's even though it has walls. In other words, it's kind of a stender that you can open up. Most stenders don't have walls, but even if we don't have walls, a foldable stender with walls, you can open up. Now the truth is, you wonder,
2 walls,
even 2 walls, exactly, is okay. Now the question is, what are you doing with that space underneath it? We said before, if there's no use for the space, it's also mutter. But even if you're using that space underneath, if it's a stender that you just have to open up and it's all the parts are there and you're just opening it up, it's okay. All right.
So this chuppah that we're talking about. So. Yep. A chuppah is not considered a halachic, but if you said it was considered a halachic space, we were talking before with the mechitzas that you were creating halachic space so people could be together. So how is that different than this? Because, can you get married without a chuppah? I think you could.
You can have kiddushin without a chuppah. You can't have nisuin without a chuppah. Some define chuppah in different ways. There's different opinions about how you define chuppah. But if you define a chuppah as a chuppah, then you can't get married without a chuppah. Because a chuppah is what affects the nisuin, according to one opinion. It's basically of the husband's home, and he's bringing his wife into his home.
So how could you erect this on Shabbos then?
One second. For argument's sake, if he physically brings her into his home, maybe that could be another way of doing the chuppah. But yeah, go ahead.
So, but I guess you can't make a halachic space on Shabbos, but I guess you're not going to get married on Shabbos, so it's really not a problem.
Right, exactly. You're not actually getting married on Shabbos.
But you're preparing for the next day, but I guess you're preparing for a mitzvah, so it's okay.
I'm sorry, what?
You're preparing for the next day, for Motzei Shabbos, so I guess it's more like preparing for a mitzvah, so you can still...
No, I don't think that's what he means. I think it's just a symbolic chuppah that maybe they put up for getting an aliyah, maybe a chassan got an aliyah under it, or maybe...
Or Hakanach Sasek for Torah, something like that.
Right, exactly. Some other celebration.
Okay,
I
got it.
don't think it has anything to do with a wedding because you can't prepare for after Shabbos like that.
So it's not halachic space at all. Then it's just a kind of
Right.
like a protect.
But
It's like just a space for honor.
Exactly. What were you saying? Okay.
But the chuppah is not that everything is connected. Yeah, the walls are-
That's why it's allowed. That's why it's allowed. Okay, so this is all the Alter Rebbe's opinion. The Chazon Ish has a different opinion. Chazon Ish says that the heter of the mechaber of Kiseh Shel Prakim is just an example, but it also applies to an intended Ohel. As long as it is all the parts are already connected, you just have to unfold it, it's allowed. And he considers a chuppah
Like an umbrella.
like an umbrella, exactly. I don't know if the Chazon Ish forbids umbrellas or not, but logically you would think it is permissible. We'll have to save the more lengthy umbrella discussion for next time. But yes, something that first of all, the Chazon Ish considers a chuppah to be a protective space. You want a little separate area under that chuppah, even if it's for honor. But you want to have a separate space. That he considers that for protection, and therefore, if it's allowed, if the Magen Avraham allows it for a chuppah, it's allowed. And he also brings in a halacha which the Ramah paskins in Hilchos Sukkah. Let me get this call because it looks like a shaila. Hello. Yep. Okay, bye. Okay, so the halacha that the Ramah says in Hilchos Sukkah is that if you have a roof that you use to cover the sukkah with when it's raining, a sukkah with schach, and you have a roof that comes down over that schach and it's connected, you can lower it on Shabbos, Yontif, whatever it is, and lift it up again. So the Chazon Ish says, well, there it's clearly for protection, right? You want to protect yourself from rain, and it's allowed. Why is it allowed? Because it's connected. So meaning to say, you're not really doing something; you're just moving something around that's already there, just like here. If it's open at tefach, that's another heter. Ramah's not talking about that heter. He doesn't say it has to be open at tefach. It has to be covering at tefach. He says if it's connected, you can close it. Meaning to say, even if it's totally not open, not covering it, it's straight up, it's vertical. And when it rains, you put it down. It's okay, because it's not because it's connected. What is it? What's the reason behind it? He doesn't explain. The Chazon Ish says that's the same reason as here, because when it's already connected, it's considered like you're not really creating something. You're just moving it over. So based on that, by the way, revisiting the sheep pen of Rav Huna, it was only a problem because it wasn't connected. Like if that mat had been connected, if they had nailed it in somehow, even if it was not open at tefach, you'd be allowed to continue opening it because it's just part of the structure. Moment, please. Hello. Yep. Nobody can at night either. And if we tell her to come back tomorrow, what would happen? What do you mean? What kind of person is she? Okay, then let her go. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Bye. Okay. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, Chazon Ish. So my friends, based on this, Chazon Ish allows a person to simply use their cover of their baby carriage. Connected. No problem. You don't have to leave it open a little bit. Now, I don't know about umbrellas. I don't know, because logically there would be no difference. So we'll have to get back to that tomorrow. But according to the Alter Rebbe, however, it's a problem. Because the Alter Rebbe says that the whole thing that it's connected is only allowing a case where you're not intending to create a protection. When you're intending to create a protection, then it is a problem. What about a sukkah? So here's what the Alter Rebbe says in explanation for why the sukkah is okay. Alter Rebbe says, exactly, where it is definitely for protection. So the Alter Rebbe says, because it's attached to hinges, therefore it is like a door. It's like a door rather than like an ohel. So my understanding of that is that because it has four walls and it has hinges that it fits over that, so it has the appearance of a door. So it's a special exception for sukkah. I'm not 100% clear about this, and I actually tried to get to Rabbi Vosner and couldn't before the shir, because usually when something has walls, it's worse. So
I missed how a sukkah came into this now.
The Ramah says in Hilchos Sukkah that if you have a roof that is connected to your sukkah, when it's not raining, you leave it up, and when it's raining, you close it so that your sukkah doesn't get wet. You can close it on Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Shlach.
And
Exactly.
it's attached, as long as it's attached.
So it's like a roof on top of the roof. Is that the spot?
You're not using it for.
It's like you said, the tablecloth and the table.
So
Unless you have
You're not using it to sit underneath it, though, Rebbe.
the cover and the
No, you're not using that covering to sit underneath it. It would be a pasuk sukkah if you were
No, it's
sitting underneath. It's because it's raining.
well,
You're not using
yeah.
it.
Well, you might sit underneath it when it's raining. You're parting from the sukkah. I mean, you can sit there.
easier.
It's certainly protecting your table, even if you're not going to
Uh-huh.
sit there. It's protecting your stuff. Yeah, I think it's only an issue because it's presumably has a tefach above the schach. If it goes like directly above the schach with less than a tefach in between, I don't think you need any. I don't think you need a heter because it's considered like a continuation of the same thing.
Not even with.
But what do you mean when that it's attached to a roof?
Because you're basically strengthening. You're basically strengthening the existing thing. In other words, it's more than you already have a tefach. You already have the whole thing. except it's thin, you're making it thick. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it's within a tefach, it's like one thing.
What do you mean by it's attached to the roof?
I mean, it's attached to the roof. It's like on hinges. You just lower it, pick it up.
So what if it's not on hinges?
How's it attached?
It's not.
If it's not attached, then the Ramos would say it's not allowed, unless you have a different heter. For example, if it fits directly above it with less than a tefach, or if it's already a tefach spread out.
You'd be allowed to put it on even if it's
Yeah.
not attached, not on.
Nothing.
Go and take boards and put it on top.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to put it.
How about underneath
Here, I
it?
have to like slide it here this way. I have to put it.
Oh, you mean if as you lower it, you lower it from the top? If it's a problem as you're lowering it?
This is the spot. I wouldn't be able to say, okay, guys, let's do this. And lower. I have to do this.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's a problem. Why you're lowering
I saw
it.
something that's underneath this stuff in Israel. Some kind of panels that slide underneath. So then that would be sliding underneath it,
Attached or not attached?
attached. So it
Panels
actually
are
kind of
attached.
underneath the stock. It's one of those permanent rooms they use as a sukkah.
Right.
So in sukkah, they just open up these
That's
panels.
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
And then if they want to close it, it's not that they have a roof over the stock. They just
Yeah,
slide
no,
them and
I know
the
you
stock is literally on top of
I
it.
know what you mean. It's still not the best, just practically, because the schach gets wet,
Mhm.
and then you open it and it drips. But yeah, I know what you mean.
So in the case of a shlach, where it's something which like unrolls or something like that,
Yeah.
so you would have to have at least a tefach there before you can unroll it, because otherwise you're creating a ohel. Was that?
That's one of the ways that you could get around it. Yes. Although we're saying
When you're
that-
unrolling
attached.
something, typically that thing that you're unrolling is a tefach. If it's going to be going across 12 feet and it's tarpaulin or something, chances are it's already that big.
the wrapped part doesn't count. It has to be an actual tefach that's acting as protection, and that wrapped part is not. Excuse me, is not. The roll is not considered protection.
Really? Even
Yeah.
if it's over the sukkah?
Correct. Because it's not there to protect. It's there so that you could unroll it when you need to.
Uh-huh.
Now, if there is a roll, this is practical. If there's a tefach before the roll, right? In other words, there's a roll. There's a tefach, and then the roll. Then that's okay, because that's. In other words, it doesn't have to be from the roll outward. It could be from within the roll. That also works. Yes.
I don't remember why this wrong.
What does that mean within the roll?
Some everybody writes that putting something with noise underneath you're talking, so that you're allowed to have it, even if it's going to protect you from, even if it protects you from rain, even if it's plastic and things like that, as long as it's for noise.
Maybe it's not in Yantov. Maybe it's just in Cholamoy. So maybe that's mitzvah, the question of chatzitza and the sukkah, and there's a, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he's not addressing the asiyas oil issue. Maybe someone Cholamoyed, you don't have an asiyas oil
Well,
issue,
it's done before Yom Tov.
then there's no issue with asiyas oil anyway. So what are you asking?
Right, so the case with opening and closing that thing would not be allowed if it would be allowed even to open and close it. If it's attached to the sides, the poles, let's say it's not a piece of metal or something, it's a
Curtain.
cloth, right? Let's say it's a plastic. So I'd be allowed to, according to the Ramaz, so let's say the plastic is attached by those things, the ring ties, those are called, to the sides of the poles and the inside. So according to that, I'd be able to open it and close it as I wish.
According to this Chazon Ish, yeah. According to the Alter Rebbe, who describes it as a door, the heter seems like a special heter. When something appears like a door with hinges and a wall, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know how to apply that heter. Question? No. Daniel, you were asking something?
I didn't understand how I thought when you have a roll, tefach has to be already unrolled, but you said it can be inside the roll or something like that. I didn't understand that.
What I mean is, if you have the roll is not adjacent to the to the wall itself. It's not flush up against the wall. It has a little bit of it spread out already, and then the roll tied up. You know what I'm saying? So the fact is, you have a section of it already. You know what I'm saying? Already unrolled, and then it's rolled. So then you can just
So in other words, a little bit is already unrolled, but if you consider the whole circumference of the outside of the roll, the tefach is there.
No, that you can't consider. You can't consider the circumference of the roll itself. But if it's a little bit unrolled before that roll, even though it's permanently that way, it was designed that way, that's okay.
Oh, because it's just it's already considered like prepared and ready to go.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and the case with a hinge, in other words, this is just like one big board, which is on a hinge, so it just kind of opens up and closes like a cabinet door, but it's kind of up and down. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to reserve the explanation of the Alter Rebbe and hopefully get back to you tomorrow about it. Why is a door? What's the special heter of it looking like a door? I mean, you would think, again, a door with walls and so on and so forth, you would think is more problematic. Why? How does that heter work? What's the heter of the door, and why does it not? Why can you not apply it to the baby carriage? Why can't the baby carriage have a door on it? Okay, so it doesn't have walls. That's even better. It doesn't have walls. That should make it more allowed. You see what I'm saying? So what is it special about the door? I have to figure that out. B'ezras Hashem.
Could you please repeat the chiluk between the Mogen Avraham and the Chazon Ish? What was their difference?
It's more between the Alter and the Chazon Ish. I don't think it's clear in the Mogen Avraham. I think it's more between the Alter Rebbe and Chazon Ish.
And what was that difference?
The Alter Rebbe says that this heter of something already having all the components in connected to each other, and you're just spreading it out, and that being allowed is only a heter when you're not intending to create a protection. When the protection is only a secondary kind of situation, where your main objective is to create a table, a bed, a chuppah, which is just symbolic. You don't actually want to create a protection. That's when it helps that all the parts are already connected and you're just opening it up. But if you actually
now I understand. That's the difference. That's the whole thing with the baby carriage bonnet.
Exactly.
In other words, the Alter Rebbe would not permit it, but since it's the Chazon Ish allows it because it's protection.
Exactly, correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
If it was actually separate.
Same thing. What's the difference? Oh, the top's already there?
No, the person wanted to, it's already give you a separate.
Because they're so close, it's
now it's separate.
giving you
Oh, you're allowed to. Why not?
You could?
Why not? There's nothing connecting them on top, is there? Why not?
So you put a piece of wood up there on top of it.
No.
That's what he's asking.
No. If you move them, whether to closer or further, and then you put the top, is a problem because you're creating the walls. Moving the walls is called creating the walls in this context, and then putting it on top is a problem.
And to a table that you add more pieces,
Well, our tables don't have sides, so it's no problem. besides the fact that it's brought down in the poskim that the space underneath the table is not a utilized space. It's not a space that is used, which I don't understand. I mean, our tables, you put your feet there. I mean, how would you sit at a table without using the space? So I have two ways of understanding. Either way, it's talking about the tables of those days, which the aristocrats used to have in front of their reclining couches. You reclined on your couch, your feet were on your couch, you had your little square table, maybe it even had walls, and with your food on it, and there was nothing underneath it, That's one way. Another way, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman actually suggested here, is that the fact that you put your feet under the table doesn't mean that you need the space under the table. It's just a technicality because you have nowhere else to put your feet. But you don't want your feet under the table. There's nothing special about under the table. When you put your shoes under the bed, you want your shoes under the bed. That's where they're going to be. That's their place. That's it's not protected from the rain, but it has its space there. So that's considered needing the space. There's no rain in your bedroom. I mean, it's not about rain. It's just it has its area. That's where its makam kavua is. You know what I mean? That's where it belongs. So that's considered needing the space. Whereas if you're just using it because it's there, you don't need it per se, even though you happen to be using it. That's not called.
Yeah, because under your bed you're using it for storage, but you're not storing anything under the table. You're just putting your feet there. There's no purpose.
You are using it not for storage. Usage doesn't have to be storage. It could be any usage, like we said by the barrels, where it's using the air to circulate and the barrels not get moldy or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on in the Machaber Vav. Keshemesadrim chavius zu agabe zu. This we already covered in the Alter Rebbe. When you arrange barrels one on top of the other, achas agabe shtaim, one on top of the other. Sorry, one on top of two. Oiches biorei al yonu v'sad l'tachtenis tachteh. You must hold the top one in your hands and arrange the bottom one underneath it. Not vice versa, because that is considered like making walls and a roof. Actually, something just came to me that I forgot to mention before, Yosef, in answer to your question about the tablecloth. Another reason why it's not going to be a problem, besides the main reason, which is what the Taz actually says, is that you're not creating a roof, you're just creating the walls. Another thing is even the walls would only be a problem if it would reach the floor, or maybe 3 tvachim within the floor. We mentioned last week that if it's within 3 tvachim of the floor, some are strict and some are lenient. Those that are strict say, well, lavud, we've used the principle of lavud, so once it's within 3 of the floor, it's considered all the way reaching the floor. Others say, for a sukkah, yeah, but not for this purpose. If you would,
you mentioned something about when you have something like the door post and then you have another one that belong.
Right, but yeah, but that's because it's not. That's because it's only a curtain. There is no top over there. If you would create a top with a wall that's flimsy, that's a serious problem. I'm saying in terms of a bed, we're going to learn tomorrow, Mr. Shem, a bed that has a kind of canopy. And the walls are literally just a sheet, but it has a wall, it has a top plus the sheet. That's a problem. Understand? The fact that it's not a good mechitza for a sukkah doesn't make a difference. The fact that it blows in the wind doesn't make a difference. In terms of oil, it has different rules. So that's a machlekes. In other words, on the one hand, we can learn like from sukkah where it's considered connected within 3, and here also we had the example with the bed and the ropes in 3. But some say that the whole concept of lavud is only a kula and not a chumrah. Lavud was created by Hashem to make life easier, not to make trouble. So by considering it love, you're making trouble. Now it's a mechitza. Some say it doesn't work. But in fact, the Mishnah Berurah says to be strict out there, but doesn't say it clearly, but it's brought that he implies also that he's supposed to be strict. So that's another side point, that if it wouldn't reach within 3, it wouldn't even be a question of mechitzas, because it's not real mechitzas. It doesn't reach within 3 of the floor. Okay, Zion, moving right along in the Mechaber. Mutar lahaniach, sefer echad mikan, v'echad mikan, v'echad al gabein. It's permissible to put one sefer on one side and one on the other side, and one on top, because you don't need the space underneath them. Okay, you want to know the opinions? Rafael, here goes. The Mishnah Berurah says that's only if you need to learn from them, or if the bottom sefer is there already. Otherwise, even if you want to lift up the top one to learn from it, it's a disgrace to the bottom sefer. It's forbidden even during the week, says the Taz. However, the Magen Avraham allows it, and so do the Chayei Adam. And that's how the Mishnah Berurah paskin before, to be lenient like the Chayei Adam. Yeah, that's because it's for the purpose of learning. It's not considered a bizayon for the sefer. All right, we're going to skip Ches. We're going to go to Tes. That's convenient for me. Yeah, because Ches is very complicated, my friends, and I have to tackle it tomorrow before I can teach it. It says Tes, Mishamer shetoilen oisel lasses bashmam lesanan on moischem pi lechol tzad chashuv asiyas oil va'asul and toisa. So basically, they would have these strainers, which they would basically spread out like a cloth on top of it, and then they would use it. They would strain liquids through that cloth, and that's it. So besides the fact that you can't strain on Shabbos, as we're going to learn in Shin Yutes, it's a boyer issue, you also cannot spread out that cloth on top of the mishameres, which is the strainer which has walls, because it's like an oil. Now the question is, why is it like an oil? I mean, you're not creating protection, you're creating a straining situation, and the wall's are already there. What are you doing? You're just spreading it out. So let's actually see how the Alter Rebbe expresses it, and I believe he is going to follow the Magen Avraham in his explanation. Here goes, 14, in the Alter Rebbe. And Ches in the Mechaber is discussed in the Alter Rebbe 15. So that's why, another reason I wanted to just skip Ches and come back to it tomorrow. Yudal, Mishamer Shetolan Oisel Lasses Bashmar Lesanan Lemoislam Pi Lechol Tzad. Chashuv Asiyas El Vasal and Toisel Lemoislam. Extending all the sides of the opening of a hanging filter which wine dregs are strained is considered as making a shelter. It's forbidden to tilt such a filter and extend it on Shabbos if it was hanging with wine dregs in it while it was still day on Friday. So
sorry, what's it talking about?
It's talking about extending the cloth that acted as the filtering part of the filter on Shabbos. And it might even have wine dregs in it, and then they used to pour water over the wine dregs, and the water would absorb some of the flavor of the wine dregs, and you might get some wine flavored water, or maybe it might even get the status of wine, depending on how much proportion of wine would go into it. Anyway, but you're not allowed to spread it out on Shabbos.
This is when they're making the wine.
No, straining the wine or straining the water through the dregs of the wine.
So making flavored water, essentially.
Flavored water, like that. You have dregs of water, dregs of wines, in this cloth. That's the strainer. Dregs like what settles to the bottom of a barrel of wine, like the pulp and stuff. Even though a roof without walls is not forbidden as oil, and the walls here are made from before, like we said, can also over here they forbade it. So he shouldn't come to do the way he does it during the week because it's a zilzul Shabbos. The way the Alter Rebbe, the way the Magen Avram spells it out here, the Alter Rebbe doesn't spell it out. But the Magen Avram spells it out, is that it's an issue of sinun. If you would be allowed to spread it on Shabbos, then you might come to actually strain in a forbidden way on Shabbos. So you could say, well, why didn't they just say don't spread it because you might strain? No, they put it into the category of a forbidden oil, but the reason they forbade it as an oil, even though it doesn't fit the category of a forbidden oil, because it's just a roof without walls that you're creating, and it's not intended for protection. The reason they did that is to protect against forbidden straining. It is. That's the point. That's why they said don't spread it, because it may lead to straining. But the category that they forbade it under is the category of oil. If you are putting it up in order to keep it as a storage space, so that's allowed. If you want to just put some fruit up there. Oh yeah,
to keep what as a storage space?
Yain umayim slulim. Here's a big chiddush. Even if you want to use it to strain clear water or clear wine, shemut l'sanan b'Shabbos, that you're allowed to strain on Shabbos, v'in kansel Shabbos klal. That's not a zilzal at all. So you are allowed to strain clear water or clear wine just to make it more clear, because that's not a bar. You're not taking anything out. Yes, correct.
Wait, what are you allowed to? I don't understand that.
Strain clear water and clear wine. Like if you have a filter, in Florida, a lot of people have these filters, brighter filters where you filter the water through. So if it's clear water, which it is, and you're not really taking anything out, it's just making it more clear. So that's not considered like you're doing any brayer, because you're not really taking anything out. It's just, more clear, but it's not really anything significant. So that's allowed. Not only is it allowed, but putting up the strainer to do it is also not a zilzal, because it's not going to lead to a forbidden straining, because you are specifically doing it for permissible straining. So if
I don't know. I don't know what this hanging filter looks like. I'm kind of having a hard time picturing like the first sentence of this.
I picture it, although there's no pictures that I've seen. I picture it just as a wide bowl with a cloth spread over it, and then they would strain through that cloth, and it would fall into the bowl underneath, and you would have strained wine or strained water or whatever liquid you would strain. So if you're just putting the cloth over there because you just want to spread out some fruit there to get some air, just for just to look nice, that's okay, because that doesn't look like anything wrong. If you're doing it for permissible straining, that's fine too. But if you do it without any intention, you're not using it right now. But the fact is that that's usually used for straining. The rabbi said, don't do it. It might lead to straining. And therefore they considered it as if you're making an oil, even though all you're doing is a roof and you're not making a roof for protection. But
so in the case on the top where it's talking about making a shelter, that's talking about where the bowl then will be more than 3 tefachim wide.
Oh, well, that depends on the chimney discussion we had. If less than 3 tefachim between walls is considered lava or not. We discussed that earlier. Maybe the less than 3 tefachim is only if you have part of a roof, so maybe it connects it. But the walls with lava, we said maybe it doesn't work. But yeah, I don't know about that. That's neither here nor there.
Okay, I'll have to go back over that. Okay, thanks.
All right, my friends, there is a lot more to learn, and therefore we will reconvene in Mirz Hashem in 22 hours or so.
Thank you very much. I'm still very intrigued about this permissible straining with a cloth, though.
About the what?
Permissible straining with a cloth. If you're going to be straining something that's strainable with a cloth, I thought that was totally forbidden.
No, not.
And doesn't straining with a cloth, I always thought you have to avoid getting fabrics wet because you might come to squeeze them.
We'll discuss that next time.
Okay.
We'll discuss that. That's the question. We'll discuss it. All the best.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right, new Mayev. I already davened, but I'm happy to participate. Good night, all.